welcome. It's your first time. Today I wanted to talk about cutters and snips and saws and those sort of like smaller hand tools that come in really handy when trail building. I've got an assortment of kind of the main tools that I use, so I just wanted to walk you through what I use and when I use it, what it's for. The nice thing about tools like this is that not only can you carry them in your backpack, but you can also put them in your pocket. So something like this, you can just put in your side pocket, your back pocket, and then you always have them, and they're easy to whip out, which is super handy. This is a pair of anvil pruners. The difference is like bypass versus anvil for those of you into pruners. Anvil means that this blade basically comes down onto this blade, which is flat, and it cuts it along. And that is really great for live and dead branches. That's typically what I use it for, is just clearing out branches, that sort of stuff. Snipping here and there where things need to get snipped. A hot tip when you're snipping branches, especially if you're building in the fall or the spring before leaves get on there, the leaves will weigh down the branch. So something that you feel is just outside of reach will be within reach. They'll get weighted down with leaves. It's surprising how much moisture is held in those leaves, and so they will get weighted down. So I always carry a pair of these in my pocket. This is, a pretty nice pair. They've got a lock on them. Most do, so that basically you can make them more streamlined to fit in your pocket when they're not being snipped. So that's great for trimming branches. The next thing up for trimming branches, this is what I carry. It's just like a little pocket sword. I got this one from Lee Valley. You can get them anywhere, kind of any handy store. There are two kind of options. You've got the folding one or the non-folding. I like the non-folding. I like this one comes with a scabbard. So I zip tie it to my side, to my belt loop actually. And then I have it. I put it on the left side, I put it facing forward, and then I can pull it out like a sword, and I kind of feel like I'm in Game of Thrones, which is kind of cool. This has a pretty nice long blade. I think it's like, 10 inches or something like that. Yeah, like call it 9.5 inches, sorry, for the Z camera. 9.5 inches. I like the sturdiness of the non-folding. I've owned several folding saws. They're basically a little bit smaller. They fold into themselves. I do have one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. But I find that the joint becomes weak, and then it becomes just a shitty saw. This is, I've been using this for a few years. You can see, if you look down at it, it's pretty bent. That might have more to do with me not being careful than it does with the quality of this. But they do make better quality ones than this. But again, I find this one to be great for the job. Anything bigger than this that I need, then I basically grab the chainsaw, which is this right here. I'm not going to get into chainsaws. YouTube has much better chainsaw experts than me. Though I will say that I much prefer here in Toronto to use an electric chainsaw. This is just a small guy. It's a little 14-incher, so a shorter blade than typically don't need too much bigger here in Toronto. I imagine if you live in BC, you may want something a little bit bigger. But the great thing about an electric chainsaw is that it's quiet. Like last night I went in and did some cutting, and people were 100 meters away and they couldn't even hear me doing it. And so when stealth is key, the electric chainsaw is a real win. And I highly recommend it. Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of chainsaws when things get a little bit bigger than this 9.5-inch blade. So that's kind of how I deal with wood. These are the two tools I carry with me pretty much all the time. Again, on my holster and in my pocket, and super easy. I don't bring the chainsaw unless I know I'm going to do cutting. And what I usually do with chainsaw, if I'm, if I got a cut in mind, I'll wait until I know that there's some other cuts nearby, and I'll kind of blow through that in one go. It's just more effective than lugging around the chainsaw everywhere, plus all the other tools. Then there are the cutters. I don't know where everybody's building, and obviously you're going to need specific tools for where you're building, and I'm really speaking from a frame of reference of Toronto and the Don. Toronto has a lot of industrial waste. Where we ride is a former dump, and then they rerouted the river, and when they did that, they poured in a bunch of landfill, and you never know what you're going to find in the Don, whether that be normal things that you would find trail building, like dirt and rock and wood, or shopping carts, geofence, the bane of my existence. When you encounter any sort of metal, you got to deal with it. So just like this is kind of my day-to-day pruner, these are my day-to-day snips. These are beautiful snips. They're made by Knipex. The great thing about them is they're one-handed. When you're cutting through a lot of geofence, I know I say one-handed. These have seen the test of time, so I need to oil them. But I can use them one-handed, and because of the double wishbone here, it has incredible leverage, and so I can cut through most fencing with one hand, which is super handy. A relatively small opening, so they only open up that big, not a huge amount. So if you're going to deal with something with a bigger gauge, then these won't do. But if you don't want to spend $100, there are other options. This is kind of like the first type of fence cutter that I bought. This particular brand's made by Husky. They have a cutter edge here, and they will cut not as, they don't have that double fulcrum there that these do. So they require a little bit more effort, but I think I bought these for maybe $20 or something like that. And that's Canadian. That's like $2 American if you're watching this from the States. I decided to try something, these are like fence cutters, because I was like, oh perfect, I'm cutting a lot of fence. And they were a little bit more robust. This is kind of like, first I bought these and decided I needed something better. So then I spent a little bit more money, maybe $30, $40 on these, but actually didn't feel they're any better. So then eventually I just dropped $100 on the Knipex. So fence cutters, you can see you line up these holes here, and then you pull them shut and they snip the wire. It does it really well. You have a lot of leverage when you do that, but getting it in and out of there when you're doing it over and over, and if it's dark, because I cut a lot of, I do a lot of trail building at night, it's a ginormous pain in the ass, and I abandoned these pretty quickly. With all three of these though, you're really, stuck with a fairly thin gauged wire you're going to be able to cut, and so that's when you get into the bolt cutters, which again, I have 2 pairs, and I really came to the same conclusion. That's how I ended up with these. These are 18 inches. You can see that they open up quite a bit. So you can, if you needed to shake somebody down, intimidate them, you could probably put a finger in there and scare the shit out of them. Don't recommend. This is really like the chainsaw. I do not carry this every time I go out. I make mental notes of places that need to be freed from thicker gauge, and then I'll go out and I'll do a pass, and I'll kind of do them all in one go. My recommendation, if you're getting into trail building, is that at the very least you have a set of pruners, okay, and you have a saw, a hand saw, and ideally something portable. You can get larger saws, bow saws, and all sorts of things. A lot of saws, but portability is key, especially if you're going in and out on the trail on your bike. Those are the 2 hand tools that I would be first picking up before going out and doing my first build, because you're going to need them. Oh, and another nice thing, the difference between the pruner and the saw is because both of them can cut small branches, but when you cut using a pruner, you're actually pruning the plant, so you are causing the least amount of damage to that plant when you're cutting it. So if you're cutting back branches and stuff, you want that tree to live, you want that bush to live. And so using pruner is much better than a saw. Saw will cut it, but it's got that raggedy ass edge that will basically not leave a clean cut. What that means is that that plant won't be able to protect itself as well from infestations and disease. At the end of the day, we're not trying to kill things when we're out there. So yeah, I hope you like this. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it.